Jake's POV. Outside of the castle, and after our short meeting with the Queen, Suma and I had a lot to talk about. Do you feel like we've had more conversations about major life-changing decisions in the last 2 days than we have since joining the army? I asked, mostly thinking aloud.
We knew this trip could change our lives. I suppose it is to be expected, Suma said, now perched on my shoulder, as we walked away from the entrance of the castle. Jake, I believe I already know how I feel about the Queen's request, but I want to hear your opinion as well.
I don't know. My mum would be happy, and we would definitely be safer. But it feels wrong somehow, I said, and stopped in the shade of a large tree with twisted branches. Suma flew off my shoulder, and landed on a knot growing out of one of the tree's roots. I sat on the ground next to her and crossed my legs.
I agree, Suma said.
Really? But I thought you only joined the army because you had to.
It is true that everyone at the academy was required to do military service, but I still wish to join.
Why? I asked, surprised. Suma isn't exactly a fighter, so it didn't make much sense.
Because of the island of Sangu and the Southern Union forces on it.
What about them?
3 years ago, 1 year before I summoned you and you agreed to become my familiar, the Southern Union forces took the island, and our country lost contact with it. I remember so many Nume from my city volunteered after we heard what happened. I watched as over 500 Nume took flight, and flew for different cities around Ambos to register to join the army. It was inspiring, and I have wanted to do my part in this war for some time now. I am no soldier, but I was gifted in healing magic, so I registered with the army as soon as I was able.
While she talked, I was reminded of the documentaries I watched growing up, about the September 11th attacks on the Twin Towers. In those documentaries, they always mentioned how recruitment numbers for the American militaries went up after the attacks. The Southern Union taking the island must have been fairly similar for Suma and the Nume. Okay, I think I get it. So, we aren't quitting then.
I hope you can understand, Jake.
Forget it, I said I didn't want to quit either, remember? Let's go tell the Queen, I said. Suma seemed happy, or maybe relieved, as she fluttered back onto my shoulder. We left the shade of the tree and headed for the castle entrance again.
Do you believe she'll be surprised we decided to stay in the army?
Probably. She did offer us a lot if we quit, so she might be disappointed. I would have shrugged, but I didn't want to knock Suma off balance. As we walked, we talked about what we should say to the Queen, but we arrived at the guards again before we made any real progress. You're back already? We didn't just receive the word that you will be returning and to let you in, the guard said confused, but opened the entrance nonetheless. One of them guided us to the Queen's chamber, and waited with us until our guide from earlier met up with us again. Back so soon? Good news, I hope, he said, and landed on a metal bar.
We have made our decision, Suma said.
The guy's feathers pressed down closer to his body. I see, not good news then. The Queen will be disappointed, but it was your decision to make. Once again, he and Suma flew off without me, and I was summoned a moment later, but this time Queen Ompera was already on her polished metal perch, waiting.
Such swiftness with your decision. I hope it bodes well for me.
Our apologies, Your Majesty,
Suma started, and the Queen shook her head, already knowing what was coming.
But we have decided to stay within the ranks of the army.
I see. This is unfortunate, but not entirely unexpected.
She stayed quiet for a moment, and was most likely thinking.
Very well, I shall keep my word, and not interfere in your time in my army. I wish you both luck and safety.
Thank you, my Queen, Suma said, and bowed deeply.
But before you go, I want to warn you. The Royal Council may not feel the same way. Be careful. They do not take kindly to being denied, and they would rather burn a fruit tree than let even a single fruit feed an enemy. Be wary of them.
With that ominous warning, she dismissed us, and told us we were now free to return to our duties at our squad's base. After leaving the castle, Suma sent me back home, and she left to meet up with her travelling group so they could head back to base. I reappeared back in my room at my mum's house and called out to her, "Mum?" I put my head out of the door and yelled, but there was no answer. I checked the phone I left on my bed, and saw a text from her about an hour ago. It read,
Jake, I'm going to see my friend Susan in the hospital. She fell and broke her wrist. I won't be back for a while. Call me when you get home.
Dang. Hope Susan's okay. I mumbled and called my mum. There was no answer, so I texted her that I was home, and that everything went good. After that, I called Robert, my lawyer, to see if there was anything I needed to know about. Hello? Robert answered. Hey, Robert, it's Jake. I just wanted to touch base about the whole detective stalking thing, I said, in my most professional-sounding voice. Ah, Jake, glad you called. I do actually have some news about that. Lynn, the detective who was stalking you, has been suspended without pay, pending review. That's good, I guess, I said. I told you the system works. All we had to do was file the proper complaints and let the chips fall on her. It's an open and shut case. You can expect a good payout from it too, Robert said proudly. He got a percentage of any money I made during a case, so he was probably pretty happy too. Well, I don't exactly need a lot of money, but I guess that's good. Stop by my office when you get a chance. I have some paperwork I need you to sign. Okay, I'm not doing anything right now, so I'll head over. Good deal. See you in a bit. Bye, I said, and hung up the phone. When I travel to Atmosia, I prefer to do it light, so I usually empty my pockets before Super summons me. The only things I bring with me when I go are the clothes on my back. I used to bring a backpack full of items, but I put a summoning spell on that, so now I don't need to remember to grab it anymore. I just have to remember to keep it stocked with what I need when I come back to Earth. Usually I leave my key, wallet and phone in it, just in case. I've finally gotten to the point where I can summon what I need, even while on Earth, but I still can't cast any real spells yet. One time I formed a few handfuls of water, and even managed to freeze them, but immediately I felt like I needed a nap. After summoning my bag from Atmosia, I scrounged through it and dug out my stuff, before hopping in my car and driving to Robert's office. 15 minutes later, I was pulling into a car park 3 blocks away from his office. After finding a spot to park, I got out and started walking. As I turned a corner, I noticed another car pulling into the lot. Normally I wouldn't care, except that I recognized the car. It was Detective Lynn's car, the same one I saw in our neighbor's driveway a few nights ago. She stepped out of the car and ran towards me. So I started running. At this point I was getting annoyed. Cutting down an alley, I decided to hide again. It weren't last time after all. Just 2 problems. Firstly, there was nothing to hide behind in this alley. Second, it was a dead-end alley. I looked up, but there wasn't a fire escape in this alley. Perfect, I groaned. Jake Vandal, Detective Lynn said, sounding a bit out of breath as she entered the alley herself. You're a hard man to pin down.